The 1990s. What comes in mind when we think of a decade? Easy. Pop culture. We think of films. We think of music. We think of comic books and many other things. But for many of us, I would say what usually comes to mind in a lot of cases combining all these elements: video games. So, with that said, let's look back at 50 games that have a heavy amount of nostalgia for me personally. And yes, you see hiding behind me a creeper. With that said, this is personal perspective only, as my view on game rankings have changed a lot over the years, trying games I haven't played prior. With that said, we are looking at my personal top 50 favorite games of the 1990s. With that said, music in the background today is from one of my personal favorites, Soul Calibur 1 for the Dreamcast. With that said, this will be a two-parter. And this we will be looking at number 50 to number 26. Number 26, I will show the game at the end of part 1. With that said, no honorable mentions or dishonorable mentions outside of maybe Criticom and Rise of the Robots. With that said, coming in, I will mention the year it came out and the console platform I played it, specifically where it was exclusive or not. Coming in at number 50, honor goes to VR Stalker, which is a great, I think, one of the best jet flight simulation combat games of the 90s by far. It was released for the Panasonic 3DO, and it was released in 1994. Coming in at number 49, a game that is, in many people's opinions, one of the greatest beat-em-ups of all time, from personal favorite publisher Capcom. Coming in at 49, released in 1991, specifically for the Super Nintendo, Final Fight. All-time classic with the introduction of Cody, Guy, and of course Mike Hagar. Coming in at number 48, released in 1994 for the Sega Genesis, is a game that is somewhat of a guilty pleasure of mine, in all honesty. Number 48 is the platformer classic Echo, The Tides of Time. Coming in at 47, released in 1996, released for the PlayStation 1. And surprisingly, it's available right now on PlayStation Classics, so if you have PS Classics, check it out. Coming at number 47 is Twisted Metal 2, which is still arguably my personal favorite of the Twisted Metal series. With that said, however, coming at number 46, released in 1992 for the Sega Genesis, this is the game that first got me into playing horror games and creepy stuff in general, as it's a dark fantasy style game, very much an earlier platformer / elements of a roguelike as well. Very high difficulty, like many games of the time period. But coming at number 46 is Chikan. If you've never checked out, I recommend checking out a video I did a couple of years back on my vlog video playlist. I talk a little bit in depth about 13-15 minute video on Chikan and why I love it so much, nostalgia and everything attached. With that said, coming in at number 45, released in 1995 on the 3DO, or at least version I played. You could play a demo of this in the very beginning of Tekken 5. The game is called Starblade. Superb, great classic space shooter, shoot 'em up. I recommend checking out if you like arcade style games of the time period. It's a definite must play. Coming in at number 44, released in 1991 for the Super Nintendo, it remains my favorite racing game on the Super Nintendo. And keep in mind, I'm not the biggest sports person, at least video game wise. With that said, coming at 44 is F-Zero, which I actually like more than Super Mario Kart, in all honesty. I think F-Zero is just something special. Coming in at 43, released in 1997 for the PS1, was the predecessor to Soul Calibur. Coming in at 43 is Soul Blade, or in Japan and overseas, Soul Edge. The introduction of many future favorite characters, such as technically called Soul Edge, but Inferno. You have, of course, Siegfried. You have Taki, which is an all-time favorite of mine. Mitsurugi, as well as Cervantes de Leon, and many others. Coming in next at number 42, released in 1997 on the N64, that is a game known simply as 007 GoldenEye. All-time classic. It really was a trendsetter for the future of first-person shooters on console. This is what really paved the way. Up until then, I would say the best shooter experience was Wolfenstein 3D on the 3DO up until then. But from perspective, coming in at 41, released in 1995 for the Genesis, I think one of the best platformers of the 90s, and that honor goes to Vector Man. If you've never played Vector Man, give it a shot. It's great and a lot of fun and a good challenge. And I like the art style personally. Coming in at number 40, released in 1991 on the Super Nintendo. On the Super Nintendo, it was known as Final Fantasy II, but of course nowadays we know it better as Final Fantasy IV. Comes in at 40. Very deserving. Final Fantasy IV is an all-time classic. I still have the original cartridge, aka Final Fantasy II, on Super Nintendo. It's one of those games, it was one of my first RPGs of all time. I would say it was probably my top first 5 RPGs I would ever play. My first Final Fantasy, though, would be Final Fantasy VI. With that said, coming in next at number 39, honor goes to, released in 1999, was one of the launch titles for the Sega Dreamcast. Coming at 39 is NFL 2K, which had on the cover art and stuff Randy Moss. Actually, Randy Moss would appear on 3 covers, 3 different 2K games, all for the Dreamcast. So, with that said, and if you wonder why I mentioned Randy Moss other than being on the cover, because he kind of went to the college in my hometown. So, there's that. Coming in at 38, released in 1995 for the 3DO, though on PC and stuff, it would be my introduction with the introduction of many people, puzzle games, as well as, keep in mind, this really was the beginning of what I would call today known as the walking simulators. This really was the origins. And surprisingly holds up pretty well for its age. 38 goes to the original Myst game, which got a remaster thanks to Limited Run. Coming in next at number 37, released in 1999 for the Nintendo 64, one of the few things that people which hate on Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, though I don't have a defender. Coming in, however, at 37, honor goes to Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racing, which is a blast to play, and I'm happy it got a remaster on modern current consoles, thank goodness. Pod Racing remains one of the best racing games of all time in my opinion anyways. Coming in at 36, released in 1999 for the criminally underrated handheld known as the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Coming in at 36 is SNK vs. Capcom, which is a great game, I might add. If you ever get a chance, it is available to purchase on the Nintendo eShop for the Switch if you get a chance. If you have no way otherwise, or just get the SNK Neo Geo Pocket Color Classics Collection. It's worth it for all the great games. But yeah, for me, this is one of the best fine games on handheld. Definitely of the 90s, is by far the best. Coming in, however, next at number 35 is a true cult classic that paved the way for many, well, I would say indie games of nowadays. Many elements, very much a great classic. 35, released in 1994 for the 3DO, Out of This World, which is a criminally underrated platformer with really cool story elements to it. I really love. And frankly, I think Out of This World deserves way more love and attention than it gets. Because it really is the definition of a cult classic. Coming in at number 34, released in 1996 for the PS1. Well, specifically play on the PS1, though I would also play it on the Sega Genesis as well. 34 goes to easily my favorite of the classic Mortal Kombat games. 34 goes to Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Anybody that's followed me for a while on this channel knows I like MK3 way more than MK2 and others. For me, it's the soundtrack, the stages. I love a lot of the characters. And Motaro is still arguably one of the coolest, I think, bosses ever in Mortal Kombat. Sub-bosses, whatever. Also, I like vanilla version because of how OP Cabal is. Speaking of, number 33. Released in 1992 for the Super Nintendo, one of the ultimate best beat-em-ups of all time. I would probably have this in my top 3 beat-em-ups ever. That honor goes to, at 33, TMNT Turtles in Time. Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time. All-time classic, one of the greatest beat-em-ups ever. And there's a reason I have the arcade 1-up cabinet of, Ninja Turtles 1 and 4. Wish they had more, but hey, they're 2 of the best beat-em-ups ever. Coming in at number 32, released in 1995 for the Sega Saturn. This game really does hold a heavy amount of nostalgia, specifically the original version, which I played in arcades first, but this would be the very first game I would ever play on the Saturn, and that honor at 32 goes to Virtual Fighter Remix. One of the true trendsetters, the first, a much improved version, in my opinion, over the original version of the first game. And I still arguably find myself actually playing Virtual Fighter Remix probably a little bit more than Virtual Fighter 2. Remix, luckily, was bundled with the console, picked it up back in the day. Coming in at 31, released in 1999 for the Dreamcast, is the all-time classic in the beginning of the 3D era of Sonic. Coming at 31 goes to Sonic Adventure. Shouldn't be a surprise given how much I've praised the game over the years, along with Sonic 2. Coming in next at number 30, released in 1994 for the 3DO, and gameplay-wise it is great, plus it will be the introduction really of the combo system. Also, this would be the introduction and debut really of Akuma, which is awesome. Plus, as well as I think the best remixes of the soundtrack ever. Coming at number 30 goes to Super Street Fighter II Turbo. Coming in next at 29, released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo, goes to the all-time classic Super Metroid, which still, at my opinion, remains pretty much in my top 3 favorite Metroids of all time. Arguably with probably, I would also say, Metroid Prime Original. And admittedly, I have a real guilty pleasure for some others, though I would say the other would probably be Fusion. But for me, Super Metroid remains the best of the series, and really one of the introduction games that would create the subgenre known as Metroidvanias. Still an incredible game, still looks and plays surprisingly great to this day. Coming in next at 28, one of the best and most fun Capcom games, and one of the best Tetris clones ever. Coming at 28, honor goes to released in 1996 for the PS1 and the Saturn, though I've only played it, unfortunately, on the PS1. And that honor is Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. If you've never played Super Puzzle Fighter, play it, seriously. And the fact it has online in the collection makes it all the better. Coming in next at number 27, released in 1999 for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, in my opinion, the best golf game of the 90s, and is up there as one of probably my favorite, possibly golf game to this day. Coming in at number 27 goes to Neo Turf Masters. If you've never played Neo Turf Masters, do yourself a favor and give it a shot. If you can get it ported or if it's available modern current day. With that said, coming in at number 26 was released. Sadly, I forgot to write down the year. It was like 98 or 99. It would be released on the Dreamcast as well as the PS1. I played it on the PS1. And it remains, I think, one of the best classic games from Capcom ever and survival horror fans ever. Coming at 26, honor goes to Dino Crisis. Yes, I am one of those people in that poll last year that Capcom did asking franchises people would like to see return or characters and everything. I was one of the Dino Crisis fans or stands, whatever you want to call fanboys, that voted on basically every single category for Dino Crisis. With that said, it still remains, in my opinion, one of the best 90s horror games of all time. Even if it wasn't really that scary, I love the feel and everything of the game. I like the main protagonist. Also, it was cool getting this back in the day, and it included also a demo disc of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which was awesome. And in fact, yeah, sadly this is come loose, but still have it. And behind it, still have the demo of RE3. With that said, and they recently added this to PlayStation Classics, so if you get a chance, you've never played it, if you have access to PS Classics, freaking download this and play this game. Seriously, it's worth it. It's fun fighting velociraptors and a giant T-Rex with a real attitude issue. And the puzzles can be annoying. If you want a good laugh, check out Maximilian Dude's recent playthrough of the game. It's like 9 hours, but it's fun seeing somebody who's never played Dino Crisis before play it for the first time. It's a blast. But, as like I've said before, I'm a big Capcom fanboy, so I'm going to argue, and I will continue stating to my dying breath, Dino Crisis is a franchise that deserves a remake. Specifically, this game needs a remake or reboot it. Whatever the point is, just please give us a new Dino Crisis game already, freaking Capcom. With that said, that is part 1 of my favorite video games of the 1990s. Let me know if you'd like me in the future work on one of these for the 2000s and 2010s. With that said, I'll see y'all next time, and hopefully enjoy the music in the background. With that said, I'll see you again. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and have a safe holiday season. If you're curious what the shirt is I'm wearing, yeah, it's Yu Yu Hakusho. See you soon.